headlines of VTV News. Party General Secretary and State President Tô Lâm meets with outstanding entrepreneurs. Strengthening cooperation between ASEAN and other countries. And later on in our world news, Nobel Peace Prize awarded to Japanese anti-nuclear weapon group.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Hello and welcome to VTV News, broadcast live to you from Hanoi. You're with me, Lina Fatman. Here's the top news of the hour. Party General Secretary and State President Tô Lâm held an intimate meeting on October the 13th with distinguished representatives from the Vietnam Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or VCCI, and the Vietnam Private Business Association, VTVa, to celebrate the 20th anniversary of Vietnam Entrepreneurs Day.
Party General Secretary and State President Tô Lâm emphasized that this occasion honors and recognizes the significant contributions of entrepreneurs to the country's socioeconomic development. During the meeting, businesses thanked the party and state leadership for their continued support in creating favorable conditions for enterprise growth.
In September 2024, Party General Secretary and State President Tô Lâm published an article on digital transformation. We urge party and state leaders to support and expedite the approval of a national digital transformation framework, fostering the nation's digital development.
Policies that encourage and ensure fairness among domestic and foreign economic entities and the state-owned and private sectors are needed.
In the meeting, Party General Secretary and State President Tô Lâm underscored that the establishment of Vietnam Entrepreneurs Day signifies the party and state's acknowledgement, as well as society's recognition, of the vital role and contributions of Vietnamese entrepreneurs.
Through innovative ideas and risk-taking, entrepreneurs create jobs, contribute taxes, enhance living standards, and drive social progress, thus becoming a cornerstone of our economy. They play a crucial role in promoting economic reform, shaping development policies, and improving the business environment and state management practices.
Party General Secretary and State President Tô Lâm pointed out some limitations, such as the small size of the entrepreneurial community, weak financial capacity, and limited management skills. The environment for developing entrepreneurs remains challenging despite numerous regulations by the party and state to encourage business growth.
Entrepreneurs will play a pivotal role in this new era of national advancement. It is imperative that state agencies engage in active dialogue with businesses, fostering understanding and shared aspirations while also striving to participate in the global supply chain.
He also urged the Vietnam Chamber of Commerce and Industry, VCCI, and business associations to enhance their effectiveness in policy formulation and legal development, thereby contributing to enterprise growth.
During the ASEAN Summit on October the 11th, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính led the Vietnamese delegation at the East Asia Summit, or EAS. At the summit, leaders emphasized the vast potential and strengths of the EAS, which brings together many of the world's largest and most dynamic economies, representing more than half of the global population and nearly 2/3 of global GDP. In 2023, trade between ASEAN and EAS partners reached $1.7 trillion. Speaking at the summit, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính expressed his hope that the EAS will continue to enhance its strategic role and value, serving as a premier forum for dialogue on strategic issues affecting peace, security, and development in the region, effectively adapting to the current regional and global change. Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính participated in ASEAN summits with Canada, the U.S., and the United Nations. More in the following.
At the ASEAN-Canada Special Summit, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau emphasized ASEAN's central and vital role in Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy. Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh proposed that ASEAN and Canada prioritize enhancing trade and investment connectivity, aiming to finalize negotiations on a free trade agreement by 2025 and effectively leverage the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, CPTPP. He advocated for increased people-to-people connectivity, expanded cooperation in education and training, and support for ASEAN in developing high-quality human resources, including more scholarships for ASEAN students and researchers. Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh urged Canada to enhance cooperation in building resilience against climate change challenges and to support ASEAN, particularly the Mekong sub-region.
At the ASEAN-US Summit, ASEAN and the US praised the positive developments in their relationship. Notably, in 2023, the US became ASEAN's largest investment partner, with over 6,200 American businesses operating in the region, totaling more than $74 billion in foreign direct investment. Looking forward, Vietnam proposed enhanced cooperation to create a prosperous and sustainable future. Vietnam welcomed continued U.S. support for developing the Mekong subregion and suggested allocating adequate resources to make scientific and technological cooperation a new pillar, fostering breakthroughs in the ASEAN-U.S. Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. At the summit, Vietnam also expressed eagerness to collaborate with U.S. technology corporations, particularly in semiconductors and artificial intelligence.
During the ASEAN United Nations Summit, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh called for enhanced cooperation between ASEAN and the UN to address global challenges and contribute positively to green and sustainable development. He expressed gratitude to the UN for their timely support in helping ASEAN countries recover from the severe damage caused by Typhoon Yagi. The Prime Minister hoped the UN would continue the collaboration with ASEAN to strengthen disaster resilience and effectively respond to climate change while promoting a just energy transition. He emphasized ASEAN's readiness to work closely with the UN to promote peacekeeping, enhance dialogue and cooperation, and build trust, all while upholding the rule of law. He strongly agreed with the calls from various nations and the UN Secretary-General for an immediate ceasefire, ensuring emergency humanitarian aid for affected populations, the release of hostages, and the promotion of peaceful negotiations.
Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh recently met with the Prime Ministers of Japan, Australia, and India, Vietnam's comprehensive strategic partners.
In a meeting with Japan's Prime Minister Isaba Shigeru, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh congratulated Isaba on his election as President of Japan's Liberal Democratic Party, LDP, and Prime Minister. Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh reaffirmed that Vietnam views Japan as a trusted, crucial, and long-term partner. Additionally, he proposed deepening cooperation in new areas such as digital transformation, green transition, the circular economy, semiconductors, and artificial intelligence. He requested Japan continue its support for Vietnamese nationals in Japan. Prime Minister Isaba strongly agreed with Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh's proposals, assuring that he would continue facilitating Vietnamese workers and interns and supporting Vietnam in developing high-quality human resources.
Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh expressed heartfelt gratitude for the warm and thoughtful reception extended by Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and the Australian government during Vietnam's official visit to Australia in March. He also thanked Australia for being one of the first countries to provide essential supplies to help Vietnam recover from the aftermath of Typhoon Yagi. Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh encouraged Australia to continue its positive contributions to dialogue, cooperation, and trust-building through ASEAN-led mechanisms, emphasizing respect for ASEAN's central role and consultations with ASEAN.
In a meeting with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh expressed gratitude for the Prime Minister's letter of inquiry and the emergency aid of 35 tons of goods valued at $1 million to support areas affected by Typhoon Yagi, reflecting the strong bond and traditional friendship between the two countries. Both nations reiterated their mutual support and close cooperation at multilateral forums, especially the United Nations, ASEAN, and ASEAN-led mechanisms, upholding principles ensuring security, safety, and freedom of navigation and peacefully resolving disputes based on international law.
Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh later met with the Prime Ministers of New Zealand and Malaysia, the Secretary General of the United Nations, the President of the European Council, and the Vice President of Indonesia. More to follow.
During his meeting with New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh proposed charting specific roadmaps and steps to boost trade further, aiming to achieve $2 billion in bilateral trade by the end of this year and $3 billion by 2026. The New Zealand Prime Minister emphasized that Vietnam is a key regional partner for New Zealand.
During his meeting with Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh agreed that they would strengthen high-level exchanges and effectively implement bilateral cooperation mechanisms, maintaining positive trade growth. Trade reached nearly $10 billion in the first 8 months of this year, a 25% increase compared to the same period last year. The two leaders agreed to promote cooperation in emerging sectors, such as the green economy and digital economy, aiming to elevate bilateral relations to new heights.
During his meeting with UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres, the Prime Minister expressed gratitude for the valuable cooperation and support provided by the United Nations for nearly 40 years during Vietnam's renewal and development efforts. The UN Secretary-General congratulated Vietnam on its socio-economic achievements. It recognized Vietnam as a model for peace and sustainable development, calling it the star of ASEAN.
At the meeting with the President of the European Council, Charles Michel, the two leaders agreed to continue expanding and deepening Vietnam-EU cooperation, enhancing high-level exchanges and engagements, and removing obstacles and barriers to trade and investment. Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh reaffirmed Vietnam's commitment to its cooperation with the EU and its member states, urging the EU to encourage the remaining member states to ratify the EVIPA agreement soon and lift the IUU yellow card on Vietnamese seafood.
During his meeting with Indonesian Vice President Maruf Amin, the Prime Minister proposed that both sides coordinate the effective implementation of signed agreements and quickly develop an action program for the new phase, prioritizing cooperation in food security, high-tech agriculture, electric vehicles, and the digital, green, and circular economies.
During the 44th and 45th ASEAN Summits and related summits in Vientiane, Laos on Friday, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh joined a ceremony marking the first anniversary of Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's launching Australia's Southeast Asia Economic Strategy to 2040. The Vietnamese leader also attended the Asia Zero Emission Community or ASEC Summit, where leaders gathered to discuss achieving carbon-free economic growth and energy security.
At a ceremony marking just over 12 months since Australia's Southeast Asia Economic Strategy to 2040 was launched, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said the country had supported more than 220 businesses in Southeast Asian countries to explore investment opportunities. The government established a $2 billion Australian fund to boost trade and two-way investment with Southeast Asia. This has resulted in a more than $1 billion Australian increase in foreign direct investment in Southeast Asia, establishing 3 investment promotion centers in Ho Chi Minh City, Jakarta, and Singapore. The Vietnamese leader proposed that Australia broaden collaboration in education training, labor, and youth partnerships to make a breakthrough in ASEAN-Australia economic ties in the coming years. At the second summit of the ASEC, which was chaired by Japanese Prime Minister Ishiba Shigeru, Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh said that Vietnam had implemented many comprehensive and synchronized measures with strategic policies and national programs on climate change, green transformation, renewable energy development, low-emission agriculture and transportation, and a carbon credit market development scheme. The Vietnamese leaders proposed the establishment of sustainable green energy supply chains to ensure energy security and promote energy transition. He called for AZEC members to apply new climate finance models through public-private partnerships to improve access to concessional loans for developing countries.
Coming up next, Vietnam observes International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction. And Muang La authorities speed up a relocation of residents in landslide-prone areas. Welcome back to VTV News. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development coordinated with the United Nations representative agencies in Vietnam and the Thừa Thiên Huế Provincial People's Committee on October the 11th to hold a ceremony in Huế City to mark International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction and ASEAN Day for Disaster Management, themed Empowering the Next Generation for a Resilient Future. The 2024 International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction highlights the role of education in protecting and empowering youth for a disaster-free future. MARD took the opportunity to extend its gratitude to the international community for their recent support during Typhoon Yagi and expressed a desire to continue fulfilling commitments to mitigate the impacts of natural disasters, helping people quickly rebuild their lives. Located at the foot of Hoàng Liên Sơn mountain range, Muang La is one of the mountainous districts with the highest flood risk in Sơn La province. Prolonged heavy rain and landslides triggered by Typhoon Yagi swept away residents' houses, damaged their crops, and left dozens dead. Local authorities have implemented urgent measures to help affected people rebuild their lives and reduce the loss of life and property from natural disasters in the future.
Qua quá trình chúng tôi đi kiểm tra thì vết nứt ở trong điểm các hộ gia đình chúng ta đang ở hiện tại bây giờ đang có vết nứt rất to và hiện tại nguy cơ sạt lở là rất cao.
Ngọc Chiến commune residents whose homes are located on the mountainside are busy preparing for relocation. Lo Văn Ing's family is in the landslide-prone area. They were advised to move to a safer place.
I don't know where to live and how to build a new house using wood. We are facing difficulties as we don't have anywhere to live right now. Perhaps I'll stay at my relative's home for a few days.
12 huts and a makeshift school have been set up in Phi Thong commune to provide temporary shelter for people whose houses are located in landslide-prone areas.
Traveling to the landslide-affected areas is dangerous as the roads are blocked. People have to walk. We have deployed task forces to provide on-site support for residents. We have prioritized the relocation and resettlement plan and selected safe locations. In addition, we provide people with food and everyday necessities to help them stabilize their lives.
With strong determination, local authorities and task forces in Muang La district have gone to great lengths to help residents in landslide-prone areas relocate and resume agricultural production.
Empowering the young generation for a future safe from natural disasters is the theme of this year's International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction on October the 13th. In Da Nang, numerous practical activities were organized with support from the United Nations Children's Fund and the Japanese government.
Extracurricular activities at Nguyễn Đình Chiểu Secondary School in Da Nang City include painting murals themed Ready for Natural Disasters and Climate Change, and a Golden Bell competition titled Let's Prevent Natural Disasters and Create a Sustainable Future.
Through these activities, we learn about the common types of natural disasters in our locality. We can also know solutions when natural disasters occur and jointly contribute to early action to make schools safe from natural disasters.
As part of the program, a signing ceremony took place for the 2024 to 2029 initiative to coordinate the integration of disaster prevention, mitigation, and response knowledge in education and training. This signing aims to incorporate disaster prevention and mitigation content into school subjects by 2029.
When we provide children with knowledge and skills related to climate change and disaster prevention from a very early age, they acquire that knowledge easily. Not only can they protect themselves, but as they grow up, they can also teach their own children, passing this knowledge from generation to generation.
We can equip students with a new awareness and train them in disaster prevention skills so that they will be proactive in disaster prevention and safeguard their communities against natural disasters.
Disaster prevention and control efforts, guided by the principles of early action and empowering the younger generation, will play a crucial role in minimizing the damage caused by these natural calamities.
Coming up next in our world news, Nobel Peace Prize awarded to Japanese anti-nuclear weapon group. And chemical leak at Houston area plant kills 2 workers. The Norwegian Nobel Committee on Friday awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for 2024 to the Japanese organization Nihon Hidankyo. This grassroots movement of atomic bomb survivors from Hiroshima and Nagasaki, also known as Hibakusha, receives the Peace Prize for its efforts to achieve a world free of nuclear weapons and for demonstrating through witness testimony that nuclear weapons must never be used again.
In response to the atomic bomb attacks of August 1945, a global movement arose whose members have worked tirelessly to raise awareness about the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of using nuclear weapons. Terumi Tanaka, a survivor of the atomic bombing of Nagasaki, had spent more than 2 decades as Secretary General of Nihon Hidankyo.
I do think the world is slowly moving to a world without nuclear weapons. After all the atomic bomb survivors are gone, I'm worried if people will be able to really understand what we have experienced.
Senji Yamaguchi, former spokesman for Nihon Hidankyo, was a 14-year-old student when an atomic bomb was dropped on the southern Japanese city of Nagasaki, killing tens of thousands. He survived miraculously but was crippled with severe physical and mental wounds for his entire life.
There are atomic bomb museums in Nagasaki and Hiroshima which have been visited by many foreign government leaders. I think these kinds of museums should be built in every nuclear-capable state's capital and in big cities like New York.
The group's members have used their personal, first-hand accounts of the blasts and their horrific aftermath to create educational campaigns.
The Hibakusha helps us describe the indescribable, to think the unthinkable, and to grasp the incomprehensible pain and suffering caused by nuclear weapons.
The decision to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 2024 to Nihon Hidankyo is securely anchored in Alfred Nobel's will. This year's prize joins a distinguished list of peace prizes that the Nobel Committee has previously awarded to champions of nuclear disarmament and arms control.
Israel's 12-month budget deficit surged to 8.5% of the country's GDP by the end of September, amounting to around $44 billion, according to figures issued by the Israeli Finance Ministry on Thursday. Higher military and civilian spending to fund the war with Hamas and intensified fighting with Hezbollah have pushed Israel's budget deficit in September to 8.5% of national output. Israel's government spending has sharply risen in 2024, totaling nearly $120 billion at the end of September, a 31.2% increase from the January to September period last year. It marks the 6th month of deficit is above the government's annual target of 6.6% of gross domestic product set for the end of 2024. A chemical leak at the Pemex oil refinery in Deer Park, Texas, killed 2 workers and injured several others, prompting temporary shelter-in-place orders for residents across the city, officials said on Friday. The leak happened around 4:20 p.m. on Thursday, sending hydrogen sulfide, a colorless and potentially toxic gas, seeping into the air at the plant. 2 bodies have been found at the scene and at least 35 others were triaged. Shelter-in-place orders were issued for the city of Deer Park as well as some residents of neighboring Pasadena, as emergency officials told residents to stay indoors, close all windows and doors, and turn off their air conditioners. Police said they plan to wait 7 or 8 hours until the chemical levels dropped low enough for investigators to safely enter. Religious hate crimes in England and Wales have soared by 25% to record levels, coinciding with the Israel-Hamas conflict, British government statistics show. The increase was driven by a rise in offenses against Jewish people and, to a lesser extent, Muslims. The Home Office said the overall number of hate crimes dropped. There has also been an increase in religious hate crimes against Muslims, up 13% to 3,866 reported offenses. Almost 2 in 5 religious hate crimes, 38%, were targeted against Muslims. More than 4,900 incidents of anti-Muslim hate and discrimination have been recorded across the UK since the October 7th attacks. And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. And that's it for this edition of VTV News. Thank you very much for watching. To rewatch our program, you can download VTVgo from App Store or Google Play, or tune in our YouTube channel at youtube.com/VTV4Go. See you again at 3 p.m. local time. Goodbye for now.